Hello and welcome back to the Daily Thread. We're coming at you with an evening episode. This is we generally upload in the morning. We generally don't put out an episode on Saturday night, but because of the Yom Tov schedule, it's a little bit wild. We wanted to get an episode out to you. There's a lot to discuss. Succos is upon us, and this year it's going to be a cold one. So you got your sweater ready for the sukkah? Some years it's hot. Some years it's cold. This one's gonna be a cold one.
In my recollections of Succos gone by, I think I mentioned it in the newspaper a few weeks ago. I remember one Succos when I was a kid in Crown Heights, which we seem to talk about a lot. Of course, a lot of memories get conjured up just talking to you in this forum. We don't get an opportunity to talk like this otherwise.
No. Talk about the past.
I don't know how you
about history.
I don't know how you grew up so fast. I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
but I remember one Succos. I was in a winter coat with a ski cap on. That's how cold it was.
Really?
I don't think it's going to be like that this year. I mean, we're going to be in upstate New York together.
Yeah, Muncie. It's going to be a little bit colder there.
Very intimate group of 35 people.
Yeah.
And it's colder up there, about 5 to 7 degrees colder than it is here. So it could be about 40 degrees at night.
Got to bundle up. Got to prepare for it.
Those people that sleep in the sukkah.
Something that is worth discussing. Something that I didn't plan on discussing, but I think, we have the platform. Simchas Torah is, I'm not sure if we're putting out an episode before Simchas Torah. Maybe if we can, we'll knock out an episode of Chol Hamoed if we're together.
Okay.
Simchas Torah is a time where it's a very beautiful time, but there's also a time where Hatzalah is very busy, unfortunately, because of people who are
a lot of drinking. Is that what you're saying?
A lot of drinking. Maybe some people who are not of age. And,
yes, that's true.
I know Hatzalah generally does a campaign annually. They kind of try to get people to pace themselves and to be responsible. So we want to echo that.
Well, it became a big problem, I think, and it's always been a big problem, but it became a major problem in more contemporary times because the population grew, of course, and the whole idea of substance abuse.
Is every issue tied to the population growth?
The fact that these issues become more widespread, I believe, in part, could be attributed to the growth of the population. Of course, we're speaking about our community per se. Of course, as you see, you can just gauge from the way the yeshivas are bursting and how it's impossible for young people to find an acceptable, good place to live. That's just a symptom of the growth of the community. So it translates, down the line to these other issues, whether it's drug problems or drinking problems. But there's a big difference between drug problems and drinking problems.
Yeah, one
is legal and one's not. Theoretically,
yeah, I did just see that yesterday. Joe Biden, I believe he pardoned all small marijuana charges, which is well.
I remember, in the early part of my life, I was a radio broadcaster when I was a student.
You're coming full circle.
When I was a student in Brooklyn College. And we didn't have commercials, but we had these public service announcements that we used to read on the news. I was a newscaster in those days in the 1970s. And one of the organizations that we got press releases from, there was no internet, okay? You had to get it in the mail. Was an organization called NORML, NORML. National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
This is in the 70s.
You're talking about let's say 80. You're talking about 40 plus years ago.
Finally happened.
You thought 40, but look, 40 years they've been pushing for it. So I don't know. Either does damage to people, or some people call marijuana a gateway drug. You know what that means? I mean, it opens the gateway to other types of drugs. You've had. Zwieglock on, right?
Oh, I thought you were going to say you've had marijuana. I did not.
I wasn't going to say that. You had Zwieglock on.
I had Zwieglock.
He deals on a daily basis with these issues. But you start talking about Simchas Torah and
the drinking issue.
You don't want me going off on a tangent.
Well, we're there.
I have to tell you something about Simchas Torah, though. Okay.
Please.
You're talking about the late 1960s, 1970s. One of the my father was a Yiddish journalist, as you know, and he used to wait for the newspaper to come on Simchas Torah morning, because sometimes, not every year, some years, there was a small, tiny story buried inside the paper about Russian Jews that had the courage in Moscow to gather in front of the Moscow synagogue for Simchas Torah. And he was so excited in the years that he saw that there's some kind of little flicker of a flame of something about Russian Jews that were so lived in such a religious vacuum for so many decades. And of course, he came from he was born and raised till he was a teenager in Belarus. And
I actually had no idea about that.
About what?
That he was born and raised in Belarus.
Oh, where'd you think he was born? In Brooklyn?
I don't know.
He was born in...
I didn't think he was born in Brooklyn. I knew it was like somewhere...
Well, what do you think Duxits is?
I have no idea.
It was in Belarus. Now, Belarus, by the way, now everyone became smart about Ukraine and Russia now. Nobody knew anything before. Everybody knows that Moldova's on this side of the Ukrainian border, and Poland is on this side, or maybe it's the other side. And Belarus is to the right, and the sea is to the left. Mm-hmm. Everyone got educated in the last year since Putin invaded Ukraine. But Belarus means white Russia.
Okay.
Belarus.
Because of the snow?
So that's where he was born. He was born in white Russia, in a town called Duxits. He came here when he was 16 years old in 1934.
We're going to have to dedicate a history episode to...
Well, we could, it's a heavy history, so why don't we do it in dribs and drabs, the way we're doing it now.
Anyways, so, just echoing the people to be responsible in Simchas Torah. Have fun, have a great time. It's an amazing day. It's a fun day. It's a festive day. But to be responsible, because everyone wants to start and end Yontif at home.
Yeah, I forgot what it was called. There's something called social. I forgot what it's called. Social something laws. If you have underage children hanging out in your house and you have liquor in the house, alcohol in the house, you're responsible for them.
You're responsible for them.
If they take that alcohol when you're out or you're asleep, and they get drunk, and
God forbid something happens.
They make trouble. Even if they just make a lot of noise and disturb neighbors, and someone calls the police, the homeowner, the adults are responsible for that. So you got to manage your own stuff. Yeah,
you got to be careful. Let's talk about some headlines over the weekend. One headline that I saw, does UC Berkeley really have a Jew-free zone? Our good friends at UC Berkeley, a very Jewish-friendly college, yeah, right? That's the phrase that's being employed by some prominent pro-Israel groups this week to describe a dispute at UC Berkeley's law school, where 9 students recently voted to adopt bylaws that state that they will not invite any visiting speakers to campus who hold views in support of Zionism, the apartheid state of Israel, and the occupation of Palestine. So they're calling it a Jew-free zone.
Yeah, I saw that last week. Interestingly enough, I forgot where I saw it, but the president of the college is Jewish.
Yeah, it kind of always...
He would not be allowed to speak at the school.
Well, he doesn't hold Zionistic views.
You have to really start analyzing it from a legal perspective. What does it mean to be pro-Israel? You have groups like J Street that pro-Palestinian and for a two-state solution, so to speak, and they consider themselves pro-Israel.
Okay.
The United States government, the Democrats, Joe Biden and his Secretary of State, their policy is still to this day two-state solution, which means that, and the Palestinians demand as part of two states that all the settlers, 600,000 settlers, are evacuated from, and this is considered pro-Israel.
Evacuated from where?
Evacuated from Judea and Samaria. What they call the West Bank.
And that's considered pro-Israel.
You know why it's called? Let me explain to you why it's called pro-Israel. Because if you take the Jews out of Judea and Samaria and you put them into original Israel, which was the size of the country in 1948, then you make the country smaller. So if Iran fires a nuclear missile, it's more difficult for them to hit Israel because Israel is smaller. So you're securing Israel. You're making it safer. So you're pro-Israel. And the people that want to make Israel larger and wider are endangering Israel because it's an easier target to hit.
Wow. That's pretty twisted. You could kind of have that argument about literally everything and anything.
Well, first of all,
I'm gonna starve somebody because if I give them more food, then they'll maybe weigh more, and if they weigh more, it could lead to more disease. Like that's just crazy way
I know
to
you
go.
don't like me going off on tangents, but
this whole podcast is one big tangent.
Okay. But a few years ago, I went to, when I used to go, before Reb Chaim Kanievsky passed away, we used to go there every time. You went with me once, right?
Of course, I went with you a number of times.
We went the last time I was there. Now, a few years ago when I was there, Yaron Hoffman gave me a bunch of questions.
Yeah, I remember that. I was there with you.
Yeah.
There was one about ice cream, I believe.
The first question was, if an obese person walks into your ice cream store, are you allowed to serve him ice cream, or are you contributing to endangering him?
What was the answer?
Reb Chaim's answer was no.
No.
Yeah, and then Rabbi Lessman was there with me, and he wrote down the answers, and I have that sheet at home. The answer to the question was no. In other words, what can you do?
You got to tighten it up. I don't know.
What can you do? The guy wants ice cream. Well, what are you supposed to do?
Right.
Deny him his ice cream?
Yeah, I guess. Speaking of Israel, Ben Shapiro is in the Holy Land with one of his new colleagues, Jordan Peterson, who's doing something with the Daily Wire. And they had a conference the other night. Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, and David Friedman had a conference in Israel. Why am I bringing up Ben Shapiro? Mm-hmm. Ben Shapiro is making some noise on social media nowadays because he is growing a beard. He has a beard growing on his face.
Really? I saw a picture.
We'll put the picture right over here.
David Hassan sent me a picture of him at the airport in Miami. You want that? I can give that to you. You can put it up.
Oh, the one with him davening?
Davening Mincha. Yeah, you have that?
Yeah, I have that one. But yeah, Ben Shapiro growing a beard.
Why is he growing a beard?
I don't know. It's not Sphera. It's not the 3 weeks.
He just doesn't want to shave anymore. I mean, LeBron James has a beard too.
I don't know how you draw the similarity.
No, there's no parallel. We're talking about beards. I don't know necessarily. It could be a stylish thing.
I know, but I don't know. People are taking.
He's just lazy. Doesn't want to shave. You got to shave every day if you're a clean-shaven person.
You shave every day?
No, I didn't shave today. I think I shaved yesterday before we
recorded.
Where I come from, as you know,
Crown Heights.
Most people did not. My father was clean-shaven.
Yeah, what's with that? Well,
you want a picture? You can put a picture of my father and mother right here too,
sure,
if you want. I have one downstairs in my office. We have offices in the same building. It makes it more convenient when it gets cold outside.
What's with your father was your father's father? Jacqueline Gordon was a Gabbai in 770.
Over here?
Picture over here.
Right over here.
And he has a beard, and all his brothers, and all cousins, and your father.
So you want what do you want? You want a historical analysis?
No, your father
or psychological analysis.
I don't know. It's kind of psychological.
All my cousins are listening to this and watching this, and their children are watching this, listening to this. And they're moving to the edge of their seat. They want to hear how I'm going.
Yeah, how did your father not have a beard? And
I don't know. Listen, it's difficult to explain, but the easy explanation is my father was a journalist, and he frequented a lot of different circles. He was a man of the world,
mm-hmm.
And I guess that he just decided that he'd be less maybe. I think it was before people were stereotyped, at least openly. I think maybe he thought he'd be less stereotyped. That's just my theory. If he didn't have a Chabad beard. When I say a Chabad beard, it means untrimmed.
Yeah.
Your beard can be growing in all kinds of different directions if you never shave.
Right.
Some of them are frightening. But that's only if you're easily.
You could only say that because you're from Crown Heights. Otherwise, you would. I was a couple of things based off of our last episode that I want to just people did send in feedback, so I want to go ahead and
you have to give me access to that feedback.
It's they texted me privately. So someone wrote, his name is Joel Krinsky. He wrote, we spoke a lot about on last episode the Yurok person being the Balei Tefillah.
Yeah.
The Gabbai though has to sell Elias and give out psichas, which covers basically the entire davening. Mm-hmm. The Gabbai has to deal with the complaints and the politics, who gets an Aliyah, who gets psicha, who's going to be offended. The Baal Musaf and the Baal Shachas could sort of chill during, when they're not davening, but the Gabbai is the manager, and there are multiple pitching changes every inning. So
right. The
Gabbai is really the one, even on Simchas Torah and even on Yom Tovim. Maybe the Gabbai should be the Yurok person.
I think you also you failed to really explain what you meant by by Kol Nidre. The guy was just home. He ate a ton of food and he drank a gallon of water.
Did I fail to?
He didn't really explain what the issue is. You know.
Okay,
The
I think
issue
the
is,
issue is apparent.
if you're standing there, first of all, I don't think it's maximum 2 hours. Kol Nidre.
I don't know. I was by Kol Nidre.
3
We started
hours?
at 6:25, and I got home close to 10.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you're the one who left the front door open? I came down at 1:15 in the morning, and the doors were unlocked. I never have that. in my house.
Unlocked? Completely unlocked?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll check the basement. Maybe someone's down there right now.
Oh, no one's down there. I looked around, but
You did look around with your.
that never happened.
You looked around with your Second Amendment.
With my Second Amendment. Listen, anyone who comes into our house is gonna be sorry.
Yeah.
that they did.
I think you're gonna be sorry.
No, they'll be very sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to put your address out there to challenge
No,
people?
I'll put your address out first.
Sure, be my guest. Anyways, I think the Gabbai though deserves some love. So this is a shout out to the Gabbayim, showing them some love. Another piece of feedback that I received from Avraham Gordon, who is a cousin of ours, who does Miftza'im. He does Miftza'im for Chabad Air. And
he's at the airport.
yeah, he texted me because we were discussing the last flight out, right?
Maybe we'll see him tomorrow night.
So he said that Chabad Air does not go to that flight because Chil Shabbos is usually involved with that flight, whether preparing for it or so they don't wrap tefillin by those flights.
That's a whole other debate. First of all, it's at night. They're not wrapping tefillin at night.
That's true.
Number one. Number two, how do you run a Jewish state? Let's talk about Israel for a minute. How do you run a Jewish state without there being some kind of Chil Shabbos?
I don't think that's. I don't think.
There are people in Israel.
I think it's first of all, you also the time that you said last time. You said 6 to 6:30.
Yeah,
It's
it's
5:38.
Yeah, I saw that.
Because Yerushalayim is earlier.
The shki is like 6:14.
6:18, something like that. But 6:14. You're right.
Let's go see who's there. You don't want to go now because Chabad Air is not going to be there.
I think we can go, but I think we're going to be disappointed that there's not going to be one from Jew on that flight.
All right, listen. We besides, you said it's a 10:45 p.m. flight, and we said even 9 o'clock is too late.
It's too late. Yeah.
People come to the airport 3 hours before.
Yeah.
I'm talking about 8 o'clock. If you're going 8:30 is the latest you have to come to the airport. You know.
I don't think there's any from Jews on that flight.
Let's take a ride over. So it's 17 minutes from here.
Yeah. Maybe
you could get away. We'll go just swing by.
Very interesting.
You park in the parking area.
But people, I find it interesting. People are getting involved in these discussions. Somebody texts me, "I want to give you some. Can I give you some feedback?" And I was nervous, like, "Uh-oh, are they going to say they don't like something?"
Yeah.
And they got pretty heated about a specific topic that we discussed. And
well, I don't think we're the final definitive words. Just because you bought some fancy microphones and
pretty fancy though,
built up
pretty fancy,
and built up infrastructure and a platform that has the attention of 500,000 people every single day. I don't think that makes us the experts on the things we're discussing. It's just an opportunity for a two-way discussion between us.
I think that's sort of. I was discussing this with a few people the other night. This is sort of an issue that exists nowadays. Is the lack of I guess nuance, where discussions are not able to be had, and even if you have a discussion, everyone wants to cancel you. Like you can't have discussions. You can't discuss things. And
I had a close call with that, as you know.
The newspaper, I'm sure you run into that all the time.
January, not all the time, because we're very careful, obviously. But when we had a picture of the U.S. Capitol on January 6th with a friend of ours who was smiling on the Capitol, there was an attempt here to cancel.
Yeah, I was on record. I was on record that it wasn't a great idea.
Who said it wasn't? I'm not saying it was news coverage.
So that's the
where
thing.
Where did I lose the right to cover the news?
So that's the thing nowadays. And
I have ads in the paper for olives and bananas, and I don't like olives and bananas. Can I still run the advertisements for them?
If you can sleep at night.
When I see olives, I run in the other direction.
You have a fear of olives?
No, I don't have a fear of olives. I don't like them. I don't even.
I think there's I think there is a fear of olives.
Well, luckily, Emma loves olives.
Oh, really?
So they don't go to waste.
The fear of olives phobia is aleophobia.
No, I'm not afraid of olives. I don't like to eat olives.
Aleophobia.
But I'm not going to censor that out of an ad for a food establishment.
So when did that change at some point where all of a sudden conversations and discussions became just like not able to be had?
I think it's a situation that social media contributed to very significantly.
Because you would think
Twitter,
the opposite would happen because of the social media, more discussions are happening, but we clamp down on them.
But you see, it used to be that
we have lack of tolerance for conversations.
When John Kennedy was assassinated in 1963, November 1963, Walter Cronkite, who was the anchor of CBS Evening News, he was the gold standard news reporting in those days. When he reported that Kennedy was dead, you could see a tear in his eye, and he was criticized for not being objective, for showing emotion. But I think what we learned in the last many years is that whether you own the New York Times or the New York Post or the Five-Town Jewish Times or any other newspaper or magazine, the Ami, Mishpacha magazine, you don't have to be objective. You do your best to present both sides of a situation, both sides of an argument, but it's always going to be, to some extent, reflective of your personal feelings. Like the governor's race, I am working very hard to get our people to vote Republican in 4 weeks, in 3 weeks, November 8th on Election Day, to vote for Lee Zeldin for governor, because I think New York State's in jeopardy.
Is this a paid ad?
Democrat control. No, not yet, but maybe next week.
Maybe.
But so there's no this
Do
idea.
you get flack for taking stance?
Yeah, sometimes. I was very pro-Trump before the 2020 election, and you know what? I was a little stunned by the number of people in our core community here who are so anti-Trump.
Trump is a complicated topic and conversation,
but he was a great president, and America was in great shape.
You know what's so this is what I don't.
I mean, I just bought this coffee across the street.
Yeah,
it's hazelnut coffee, hot, a little milk, and 3 Splenda.
Okay.
I don't know the guy.
How much milk exactly?
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay.
A little bit. I don't know the guy that served it to me. I don't know what kind of person he is. I don't know where he was last night.
Or what his views are.
I don't know how he treats his wife or kids, or if he has a wife or kids. I don't know if he has a good driving record. I don't know anything about him, but he serves me good coffee. What do I have to know everything about everybody that serves you? When you go to the supermarket and the guy checks you out and sells you challahs and fish and soup and chicken, what does it matter who's checking you out? Are you going to conscientiously object to buying it and walk out without paying because you don't like the person's character?
Well, I think that if people...
That's my position on Trump.
That's your position on Trump. That's your position on, I think, on censorship. On censorship in general. I think that, and your father was a big
my father got into
big
trouble.
advocate of this, and Wale Jacobson's father was also,
he got into more trouble
because they did not believe in censorship.
I don't know if any of the Jacobsons are going to be watching this, but Gershon Jacobson used to create the trouble. My father used to settle the problems.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they were, they had a newspaper that was in business, and they made a living from the fact that they had organizations that. Like the Agudas Yisrael of America and Yeshiva University and Israel Bonds and other organizations that were the lifeblood of the newspaper. They kept them in business. I think
I think again, it's just there's a lack of tolerance, and this is important to address because the second we stop having conversations, and the second that we just close our eyes and our ears to. I'm not saying to apikarsis and to kfira and stuff like that.
See, now, but there's a fine line, okay? A couple of years ago, I was in Israel, and at the same hotel was Rabbi Marvin Heyer from the Simon Wiesenthal Center in Los Angeles, and his museum. He built a museum in central Jerusalem, massive museum called the Museum of Tolerance. And I about a year later, I wrote about the Museum of Tolerance. It wasn't open yet. I'm not sure if it's open yet even. I was just there, 8 weeks ago. I don't recall seeing it really open yet, but it'll be open soon. Looks like it's done. And I was speaking to someone who I met in Florida who is a major philanthropist, supports a lot of organizations, gives a lot of tzedakah. And she said to me, I don't like the name Museum of Tolerance. It should be Museum of Acceptance. Now, that's just a word here and there, but it says tremendous amount. Are we supposed to accept everything? You have to draw a line somewhere.
I'll give you an example.
Or does that line get drawn based on what your
I think the line gets. I think the line gets drawn in a weird place. We had a podcast.
Everybody draws a line someplace else.
Meaningful Minute has a podcast called DMC, Deep Meaningful Conversations. It's with two women, Alex Fletcher and Rifki Silver. It was formerly, before Meaningful Minute sort of took it under our wing, the name was Normal from Women. And we were getting ready
What's it called now?
Deep Meaningful Conversations. Okay. Last second, we did a complete brand overhaul, and we were planning on relaunching with the name Normal from Women, but we got tremendous backlash.
Normal from Women?
The word normal is not cannot be used.
I did an interview with the.
What do you think about that?
I did an interview with I forget his name right now, from Quorum Publishers.
Matthew Miller.
Matthew Miller. I did an interview. I don't know if we posted it. Yeah, I think we posted it on 5tjt.com. Oh, we should have a lot of visits today to the website, right? and he said to me, he's a publisher. He's in the business of words. And he said to me, there's certain words you can't use anymore. I mean, one of the words is gay used to mean happy, and people used it very liberally, so to speak. You can't use the word fundamental.
Why?
Because it means fundamentalist. It means that you're some kind of extremist. And even says the word settlement. You used to be able to make a settlement.
They're trigger words.
These are trigger words. These are words that if you're publishing and you want your target audience to be the mainstream or the middle of the road, without giving away that you're taking some kind of extreme position, you can't use those words anymore.
I hear. Well, that's our episode.
That's it for Succos. We didn't even talk about Succos.
Succos is upon us. Succos is upon us. It's a great holiday. Crown Heights is rocking. Crown Heights is known for the Simchas Shoevas that happen.
Yes, all night long.
The rain or shine, it doesn't matter.
I don't know if we're going to do another episode. Hopefully we'll try to get one in during Chol Hamoed, but I'll tell you that in all my years in Crown Heights, I was at Hakafis by the Rebbe one time.
One time, why?
I don't know.
It just went too long?
2-3 o'clock in the morning, and I don't think my father went. He didn't schlep me along, and it was very, very packed. You're talking about 5,000 people in a room that maybe could hold maximum.
I was told that it still is extremely, extremely packed on Simchas Torah, and they bring Catskills Hatzalah ambulances to Crown Heights really? On Simchas Torah because of the people that are descending upon Crown Heights for Simchas Torah.
It's been a long time, but I'll tell you this. At one time, why did I go that year that I went? Because a cousin of mine was going to be away for Yontif, and everybody had their place, Simchas Torah. And the benches were stacked up to the ceiling.
And everyone respected the places?
There was no chart, there was no list, there was no attendance, there was no monitors. Everybody knew their place. Year after year, they had the same place. Anyway, so my cousin was going away for Yontif.
Which cousin?
Shmuley Goldman. Tall, thin guy, Shmuley. And so he said I could have his place, except I'm not a tall, thin guy. And I went to his place. He explained to me exactly where it is.
Yeah.
And I went to his place, and people were fidgeting on the bench. They say, something's different here this year. The same people. Someone's here that wasn't here last year.
So, or somebody gained weight. It's a real issue if somebody comes 10 pounds heavier the year after.
I don't think my feet hit the bench. I think I was being held up by the two people, one behind me and one in front of me.
If the glove don't fit,
That's my Simchas Torah recollection of being found out that I don't belong on that bench.
That was the last time you went.
But those are kafis with the Rebbe dancing with the Sefer Torah with his brother-in-law and the smile on his face. I don't remember what year it was, but it's etched in my memory forever.
Do you recall any Chol Hamoed trips that stand out to you?
I don't know, except for that baseball game that was Pesach that I did with the
I can tell you a Chol Hamoed trip we went on. It was Chol Hamoed. I think it was Chol Hamoed Pesach. No, it must have been. Oh, it must have been. No, it was Chol Hamoed Succos. We went to a Met game.
Oh yeah.
And the Mets were in a wild card game versus the Marlins.
Really?
Yes. And Tom Glavine was on the mound.
That was a playoff game.
That was it was one of the last games of the season to get into the playoffs. The magic number was 1.
Yeah.
Tom Glavine was on the mound, and I remember you went to go get some drinks.
Right.
And you came back, and before there was even the end of the first inning, the Mets were down 8-0.
Yeah, that's right. And Tom Glavine,
he was a great pitcher.
I thought to myself, I came back from the soda place.
It's 8-0.
It's 8-0.
I remember him hitting Dontrell Willis with the bases loaded. And
I think everybody that goes to a Met game or a Yankee game believes when they go to the stadium that the Mets or Yankees are going to win.
I have a very good record of my team winning when I go to games.
And it's very disappointing when you go. We all went sometime the past year, right? to a Met game.
Yeah. Yeah. We went to a doubleheader. They won both games.
Well, I left after the first game. I'm not doing no doubleheaders.
I was there for both. I was there for 1.5, actually.
My father took me to. Actually took us to Shea Stadium. I think it was Shea Stadium when they played the Giants. And game 2 of a doubleheader was 23 innings.
Oh my gosh!
We left after the first game. But I got home.
Every episode we do, baseball comes up. I think baseball is very, very Jewish. No,
I think
very Jewish.
Well, it's acceptable. You know, it's America's pastime, and we're living in America, and this is a unique type of year because every sport
it's happening at once.
The globe is happening now. You have the basketball season, preseason now, football season is just beginning or just started already. Baseball's just hitting the playoffs.
Yeah.
What else is there? Hockey's starting.
Yeah.
And if you're not a sports fan, it doesn't matter. But
that's what's happening. One thing I wanted to discuss before we end is the Lulavim and Esrogim. Like you walk into shul, you take it out, and everyone's just like you're looking at everyone's Lulav and Esrog and see what you got. And as it goes, we usually find ourselves in not non-Chabad shuls, but we are a Chabad family, and
have yours in my car.
Our Lulavim are pretty interesting.
Well, I mean, there's at least 36 Hadassim.
So 36 Hadassim. What does the general Lulav look like with how many Hadassim?
I think 3 and 2, 3 and 2. 2
so
of one, 3 of the other.
Our Lulavim looks like it.
It looks very full. Looks very healthy.
Very green.
I think you'll see. You're not going to be in KMH, but I think you might see a few of those.
You think so?
I think so. Listen, it's a great.
The neo-Hasidic revolution.
I think it's a great mitzvah. Kol ha'ma b'harezeh meshubach. They say about the Haggadah. The more you talk about Mitzrayim, you see as Mitzrayim by the Seder, the greater, more praiseworthy you are. Why not the same thing with your lulav?
Okay, listen.
Greater question that you might want answers to is if the esrog is the main part of the abraminum, why do you make a bracha on the lulav? Why do you make a bracha on the esrog?
So the children should ask.
Not so the children should ask. There's no mitzvah for the children to ask about Succos. But maybe some of your listeners can chime in on that one. Maybe we'll answer it next week if we don't get the answer.
Of course, you can reach us at thedailythread at meaningfulminute.org. That's thedailythread at meaningfulminute.org. Or you can send us a message on WhatsApp. You can hit the link in the show notes in the description. We appreciate you listening to this podcast. Go ahead and please rate it 5 stars on Apple, Spotify. Leave a review and give a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button on YouTube. We come at you with new episodes every weekday. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Next week, Chol Hamoed, I'm not sure. We might be off, but we will see. Maybe we'll sneak out an episode. Anyways, until then, we appreciate you listening and watching, and have a great night.
Yantif.
Good night, great Yantif.